Well, I sat through the committee meeting, and we had a 5-page amendment and a 282-page bill that was voted on in probably 40 to 45 minutes. They spent substantially more time discussing a 5-page technical amendment than they spent discussing a 282-page budget bill that's going to deal with how the state's going to spend its revenue for the next 2 years. They spent almost an equal amount of time explaining their votes, why people thought that the bill was a good bill, a bad bill, and some people thought that having a bad budget is better than having no budget, but there were a lot of people that were the impression that having no budget would be better than having a truly bad budget. But there is pretty much consensus that this is not a good budget.
What you have witnessed since January is the worst of politics. When you get to the point that in your most important job that you're sent to Frankfort to do, and you work hard to do it, and then you have obstructionists who want to put dirt in the game to be able to get political advantage, that's what I call the worst of politics. I agree that we are in a political game, and that's what it's all about. But when you have people and children, the disabled, when you have them suffer, then you should be held responsible.
This is a budget that is out of fear and not of hope. But for my district, we can't afford to not have a budget, because it will not only hurt state government, it will hurt my town by state government shutting down. And so I have no other alternative but to vote this budget out of this committee.
I don't think it's a very good budget. I know our fiscal constraints in the state, it's no better than the one that was before us at the end of the regular session. And it would have been much better to have gone ahead and done our best then, and not have to be back here at this time. It certainly would have made a lot of difference in my life.
Well, I didn't think it was a good bill at all. I thought the House budget that we passed earlier this year was much better. Anytime we cut education, it's a step backward. We need to be going in the other direction. We need to be putting more money into education, because we've made greater strides in the last 20 years than any other state in America. And we do not need to be backing up now. We need to be pouring on the coal, so to speak. When you look at the fact that our students the improvement in reading excels all other states, we know that we're doing some things right. And this budget does make a backstep, and particularly for those of us in university communities, to see a 2.4% cut on top of the cuts that have been made in the last 6 years, it's really devastating.
It goes beyond the scope of our responsibility. It's our moral duty to ensure that the children of this Commonwealth are supplied with the tools so we can raise the standards of living of all Kentuckians.
What's going to happen is it's going to be a cutback. It's going to be class sizes will be increased, the quality of education will be diminished, tuition will rise. Yeah, we all talk about it. So many of us talk about the negativity of raising taxes. No one talks about the burden that we place on Kentucky families and our students by having these incredible increases of tuition, which are born in part by our failure to make our necessary contribution to post-secondary education.
What I was hoping would happen is that the Senate would take our budget and as they do sometimes, even add into education. You have to start somewhere, and we started, and in fact, not only did they not improve the budget, they made a backstep. So that's what bothers me.
Well, I think the individual chambers will have to take responsibility for their individual budgets. The House budget was much more progressive, provided much more relief for our schools, for our jobs, our struggling economy. We created 25,000 new jobs in the House budget. We've lost 100,000 jobs in the last 2 years in this state. We in the House are concerned about that, but apparently others in the other chamber aren't concerned about it, and the governor doesn't appear to be too concerned about it, so we can't pass a budget by ourselves, but we did stand up and make our views known.
The budget the House passed out would have potentially created 25,000 jobs with $1.1 billion in wages for workers who are unemployed, thereby slowing down the drain or the increase in unemployment that we're borrowing from the federal government. It would have put people to work and had a $3.4 billion impact on the state's economy, creating taxes, which would have created money to meet our obligations with.
I think our Senate counterpart, they're very proud of this budget. They feel that it's a responsible budget, and they feel that the majority of the population feel that it's a responsible government. But once the increases come and once the cuts come, I think it's going to be a reaction to that. And I think it will be a kickback. Now, it's very difficult for me to ascertain what that might be, but I think it's going to be real, and I think it's one that we will see at the polls.
People are going to be watching to see what happens in this with this vote to make sure that we do have a budget of some sort. The number one goal or the number one job of the General Assembly is to pass a budget. If we don't come away with a budget, I think a lot of people are going to be subject to very negative connotations, and for people that have opposition coming in November, that will be a hammer that they're going to be hit with on an ongoing basis, because you went to Frankfurt not once but twice now and didn't do your job if we don't get a budget.
But I think all incumbents that are challenged are going to have a problem this fall.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.